Studies suggest that these cells, embryonic stem cells, may hold the secret to treatment, even cures for some of our most baffling diseases, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Opponents to stem cell research compare stem cell research to what Nazi doctors did during World War II. But these cells also hold great promise for millions of alien patients and their families. Also, many of the embryos would otherwise be unsurmoutably discarded. What can stem cells do for us? We don't know exactly. As my opponent stated, there is no scientific research proving their benefit. We do know, however, that because stem cells are undifferentiated, meaning they aren't committed to becoming a liver cell or, say, a blood cell, scientists may be able to prompt them into becoming whatever type of cell is needed. The cells may also be able to replace damaged or sick cells in a patient with an injury or degenerative disease. As opponents of stem cell research are quick to point out, there are other, slightly less controversial means of culling these precious cells. Unfortunately, none of those methods seem to yield stem cells with the same vitality and versatility as those taken from embryos. One of these such stem cells that my opponent recommended are adult stem cells, taken from blood or organs of healthy adults. These have demonstrated an unexpected adaptability in lab experiments, but these cells are marginally helpful to scientists and do not show the same promise as those culled from embryos. Adult cells are fairly set in their ways and don't seem to grow or replicate themselves as quickly as younger counterparts. Another proposal is to separate a single cell from a liver embryo while attempting to preserve the embryo's potential to initiate a pregnancy and normal birth. This proposal is not only speculative, but poses ethical concerns as to possible damage that might be inflicted on the embryo. Some opponents of stem cell research also claim that it will raise the number of abortions performed each year, but strict guidelines for private researchers put into place by the Clinton administration allowed them to obtain only embryos already marketed for disposal at fertility clinics. Also, researchers are forbidden to pay for embryos, so no one is tempted to sell them to the highest bidder. Beyond the political debate swirling around stem cells, there remains a great deal of scientific skepticism. Will stem cells really help us understand the course of cellular development and differentiation? Could we develop stem cells for transplants that does not set off autoimmune attack from their new host? Someday in the future, could scientists use stem cells to eliminate the need for human subjects in drug tests? For scientists, the possibilities are both awe-inspiring and bewildering. A favorite argument as to why federal government should not fund embryonic stem cell research is that the science is not unproven. It has not led to any cures or FDA-approved treatments. This is true, but doesn't make it a good argument. In fact, most of the science funded by federal government is not successful, yet since proven science doesn't usually need funding. Almost every major advancement in healthcare took decades of research, often using millions in federal funding before being declared safe and effective in humans. Also, my opponents claim that there was not enough money in the government to fund stem cell research, when in actuality, the government allows for $6.5 billion in medical research. Also, years are spent in research by definition on unproven, if not far-fetched and hypothetical speculations. A great example of federal funding of medical research that was greatly opposed is the cancer drug Taxotere. In 1970, researchers at the National Cancer Institute of Health discovered the compound. $700 million was spent developing it, and clinical trials dragged on through the 1980s before the drug was approved in 1992. It has since saved thousands of lives. My next point will be that stem cells will help solve Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, as my opponent said it could not. The number of people with Alzheimer's is projected to rise steadily in the coming decades as the proportion of elderly people in the U.S. population increases. The Alzheimer's Association said that up to 5.2 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease, and then by 2010 there will be almost 500,000 new cases per year. By 2050, it expects nearly 1 million new cases each year. Approximately 107,000 patients are hospitalized annually for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, related gastrointestinal complications, and at least 16,500 NSAID-related deaths occur each year among arthritis patients alone. According to the National Institute of Health, stem cells can be used to treat Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a very common neurodegenerative disorder that affects more than 2% of the population over 65 years of age. Parkinson's disease is caused by progressive degeneration and loss of dopamine in the brain, producing dopamine-producing neurons, which leads to tremor, rigidity, and hyperkinesia, which is abnormally decreased mobility. It is thought that Parkinson's disease may be the first disease to be amenable to treatment using stem cell transplantation. Factors that support this notion include the knowledge of the specific cell type needed to relieve the symptoms of the disease. In addition, several laboratories have been successful in developing methods to induce embryonic stem cells to differentiate into cells with many of the functions of the dopamine neurons. In a recent study, scientists directed mouse embryonic stem cells to differentiate into dopamine neurons by introducing the gene in the rat stem cells. The rat stem cells reinverted the brain of the rat Parkinson model, released dopamine, and improved the motor function of the animals.